I will eventually make a video about what's gonna happen with my old table saw, but now I am the proud owner of this beautiful cast iron industrial table saw, which, as beautiful as it is, has one really annoying feature, which is the miter slot. The edges are so sharp and jagged that they will quickly ruin any rectangular runner, and I really can't bother myself into making dovetail shaped ones because they are hard to make, and it's even harder to make them precisely in order to avoid play. And they also tend to bind, so not a good solution. What I need to do is to somehow square up these edges. So I thought about rigging something up like two angle grinders facing each other with then counter-rotating discs and some kind of a mechanism to gradually lower them into the cut. And this entire thing then being guided by some kind of a, I don't know, precision ground guide rail. But you know, I think instead I'm just gonna use my router. Cast iron can be pretty soft and should be machined with relatively high cutting speeds, which is good because the router doesn't go very slow anyways. Also, graphite flakes in the material should lubricate the cut and make the chips break easily, which should make it quite a breeze to machine, given that this is actually that kind of forgiving cast iron. To guide the router, I'm gonna use this piece of Baltic birch plywood. Previously I made sure that it is straight, which is important. But it should be, because it's the factory edge of the sheet. But just to be safe I checked it, and then I checked it again against the existing mitre slot. And it is in fact straight. My workshop is a melting pot for push stick cultures. And to make sure that I line up my guide exactly parallel to the existing mitre slot, I made those spacers that hook over the edge of the mitre slot. And now with my router screwed to a piece of plywood for better control and a regular straight bit for woodworking, I made my first cut. I first tried taking away about a millimeter, which turned out to be too much. So I put an additional spacer between the router and the guide to lessen that cut a little bit. What came then was actually quite boring. Making a cut, removing a spacer, making a cut, and so on. I repeated that about 3 times for each side of the mitre slot. And better not stand on the cable. As you can tell, I'm feeding very slowly. Now this turned out nicely and the bit still seems to be in remarkably good shape. For the other side, I simply put a lot more spacers between the router and the guide. Now this turned out really great. Nice square bearing surfaces, and the slot is still straight as can be, and also these sides turned out to be exactly parallel, which is good. And I can still use the old mitre gauge. But now I can also use the slot to guide, for example, a crosscut sled or my computer controlled box joint jig. Now, what do we learn from that? Well, a messed up or weird mitre slot can be fixed with just a woodworking router. I hope that you found this interesting and that you liked my socks. Till next time.